Story 1. You ever have one of those memories that's so vivid, so real, that you start doubting everyone else for not remembering it too? Like, you know what you saw, but every person you tell looks at you like you're insane. That's what happened to me with my cousin Tyler. He disappeared when I was 17, and the last time I saw him was in front of a house that doesn't exist. It happened in a small town called Willow Creek, Missouri. You've probably never heard of it. It's one of those sleepy Midwestern towns with a single gas station, one high school, and a whole lot of nothing in between. Every summer, my parents would send me there to stay with my Aunt Diane, Uncle Ron. It was the kind of place where you could leave your bike out overnight and still find it in the same spot the next morning. Until that summer dot, the one when Tyler vanished. Tyler was 2 years older than me. Kind of a troublemaker, not in a criminal way. Just the kind of kid who'd sneak out at midnight to climb the water tower, or dare you to walk across the old train bridge blindfolded. He wasn't scared of anything, and that's probably why he's gone. It started on the 4th of July weekend. We were walking back from the fireworks at the fairgrounds, cutting through Miller's Woods, a stretch of trees behind the elementary school that led straight to the back roads near my aunt's house. It was around 11:30 at night, and the air smelled like gunpowder and barbecue smoke. You could still hear the last of the fireworks echoing in the distance. We were halfway through the trail when Tyler stopped. "Hey," he said, "did that house always have its lights on?" I turned to look through the trees, maybe 50 yards away. There was this faint yellow glow, like someone had a porch light on, but that didn't make sense. There wasn't supposed to be a house there. I knew that trail like the back of my hand. The woods behind Miller's had been empty for years, just trees, deer, and the occasional beer can from high school parties. But there it was, a small one-story house, white siding, porch, swing, curtains in the windows, and every single light inside was on. "Dude, what the hell?" I asked. "That wasn't here before." Tyler grinned. "Maybe someone finally built on the lot." "The lot?" I said. "This isn't even on a road." He didn't care. He started walking toward it. "Come on, let's check it out." I hesitated, but followed him. The closer we got, the weirder it felt. The air was heavy, like when you know a thunderstorm's coming but the sky's still clear. And the crickets stopped. No sound at all, just the crunch of our sneakers on dry leaves. When we reached the clearing, I realized something was off about the house. The lights inside weren't electric. They were too warm, too soft, like old lantern light. The paint looked fresh, but the style, it was wrong. The windows had those thin black frames, and the porch steps looked hand-dash carved. It looked old, like early 1900s old. "Dude," I whispered, "this doesn't look right." But Tyler was already climbing the porch. He knocked on the door. No answer. Then he tried the handle. It creaked open, and that smell hit us like wet dirt and something rotting. I gagged. "Man, let's go." But Tyler just smiled. "You scared?" "Yeah," I said. "I'm not trying to get shot by some farmer." He stepped inside anyway. Be right back. And that was it. He disappeared inside that house. I waited 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes. Tyler. I called out. No answer. Then the lights flickered. Once, twice, and went out. All at once. I panicked and ran back through the trees. Didn't stop until I saw the streetlights of Maple Avenue. By the time I got home, Aunt Diane was already pacing in the kitchen. She said Tyler hadn't come back from the fireworks. I tried to explain about the house, the lights, everything, but Uncle Ron just stared at me like I'd lost my mind. There's no house back there, he said. That land's been empty for decades, but I saw it. The cops searched the woods for 3 days. Nothing. No house. No lights. No sign of Tyler. They even brought in dogs. But the trail went cold halfway through the trees, right where that clearing should have been. They said he probably ran away, but I knew he didn't. Tyler would never just leave. He went inside that house, and it swallowed him. For weeks after that, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I'd see those flickering lights. I even went back once during the day to prove I wasn't crazy. The clearing was still there, but it was just grass. No house, no foundation, nothing, like it had never been there at all. Years went by. I moved away for college. My aunt and uncle eventually left Willow Creek. Two said they couldn't stand living there anymore, but I never forgot. Then, last summer, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. When I answered, all I heard was static, and then a voice, faint, crackly, but familiar, bits me. I froze. Tyler. There was a long pause. Then, barely a whisper, "Don't come back here." The line went dead. I tried calling back, but it was disconnected. I checked with the phone company. They said no record of any incoming call that day, that night. I couldn't shake the feeling someone was watching me. Around 2 a.m., I heard knocking, not 3 slow knocks on my window. When I looked outside, my heart almost stopped. Across the street, under the streetlight, was a house, the same one from that night. White siding, porch swing, every light glowing dot. And in one of the upstairs windows, someone was standing there. I swear to God, it was Tyler. I ran outside, barefoot, sprinted across the road. But when I got there, the yard was empty. The house was gone. Just darkness and silence. The next morning, I checked again. No house, no porch, just grass and pavement, like nothing had ever been there. I thought maybe I was losing my mind, until the news came out 2 weeks later. A hiker had gone missing near Willow Creek. The search team found his backpack and a photo on his phone. It was blurry, taken at night, but behind him, you could see a faint yellow glow through the trees, a small white house. I showed the article to my aunt. She started crying before she even finished reading. "Your uncle used to talk about that house," she said, "back when we were kids. People said sometimes, late at night, you could see it appear in the woods, but only if it wanted you to." "What do you mean?" I asked. She wiped her eyes. "Willow Creek was built over old farmland. The story goes, a man murdered his entire family there, then burned down his own home with them inside. The land's been cursed ever since. They say the house rebuilds itself, piece by piece, every few decades, and when it does, it needs new residents. I didn't believe in ghost stories, not until then. 2 nights later, I was driving home from work, took a wrong turn off Route 9, and ended up on a back road. That's when I saw it again, right there, at the edge of the tree line, that same damn house. Light on porch, swing moving slowly in the wind. And this time, the front door was open. I slammed on the brakes, heart pounding that I heard it. A voice, faint but clear, coming from the trees. Come home. It was Tyler. I swear it was his voice. Come home, it said again. It's better here. The lights flickered, and for just a second, I saw figures behind the windows. Not just one. A whole family, watching, smiling. Then everything went dark. When I finally got home, I was shaking so hard I could barely unlock the door. I told myself I'd dreamt it, that maybe my brain was breaking under all the stress. But the next morning, I checked my car, and there, on the windshield, written in the dust, were 3 words. Welcome back, cousin. I haven't gone near Willow Creek since, but every few months, I'll see a new story online. A missing hiker, a lost traveler, a family's car abandoned by the woods, and every single one mentions it. A strange white house, no address, no record. Some say it only appears to those who've lost someone there. Others say it's looking for new people to replace the ones it took. All I know is, when it appears, you don't go near it. You don't take pictures. You don't knock on the door, because once you see it sees you too. And it never forgets your name. If you ever find yourself driving through Missouri and you see a light through the trees where no house should be, don't stop, don't look, and whatever you do, don't answer when someone inside calls your name. Story to it started on a Saturday morning in a small town outside Columbus, Ohio. I'd just moved into my first house, a fixer-upper, old as hell but cheap, so I couldn't complain. That morning, I saw a sign taped to a telephone pole. Yard SALE. Everything must go, minus 1,200 for Medellin. It was only a few blocks away. I figured I'd check it out. Maybe find a lamp or something vintage for the living room. The place was an older ranch-style house with peeling paint and an overgrown yard. There was this sweet old lady sitting in a lawn chair, wearing a wide-brimmed hat and sunglasses. Her hands trembled as she held a glass of lemonade. Morning, I said, Pew holding the sail. She nodded slowly. Yes, dear. I'm moving away. It's time to let things go. Her voice cracked on that last part, and I felt kinda bad for her. She must have been in her late 70s. There were the usual boxes of junk, books, VHS tapes, kitchen utensils. But one thing caught my eye. It was a wooden box sitting by itself on a small table. Dark mahogany, maybe 2 feet wide. By the edges were carved with strange little markings. Not letters, not numbers. Almost like vines twisting into shapes that didn't quite make sense if you stared too long. What's this? I asked. The old woman looked up sharply. Her smile faded. Oh, that, she whispered. That's not for everyone. I laughed awkwardly. What do you mean? She hesitated. Then she said, if you take it, don't open it at night. That should have been my cue to walk away. But I didn't. The box was beautiful, heavy, solid, handmade. I figured it'd make a great storage piece or something. How much? I asked. She stared at me for a long time, then said, $10. I paid her, thanked her, and carried the box back to my car. As I was leaving, I glanced in the rearview mirror. She was still watching me. Her hand lifted slowly, like she was trying to wave goodbye, all warmly. When I got home, I set the box on my kitchen table. It didn't have any hinges, just a sliding top. When I tried to open it, it wouldn't budge, like it was sealed shut. I figured maybe it swelled from age, so I left it there, planning to pry it open later. That night, I fell asleep on the couch watching TV, and that's when I heard it, a soft ticking sound. Tick, tick, by, muted the TV. The sound was coming from the kitchen. I walked in, half asleep, and the ticking stopped. The box was still on the table. Only now the top was slightly open, maybe half an inch. I froze. I didn't remember touching it. I leaned closer. It was dark inside, too dark, like it absorbed the light around it. Then I heard something move inside, a soft, wet scrape. That's when I backed away. Okay, I muttered. No. I grabbed the box, shoved it into the garage, and went back to bed. But all night, I couldn't sleep, because every few minutes, I'd hear faint tapping dropped from inside the garage. The next morning, I checked. The box was exactly where I left it. No sound, no movement. I convinced myself it was a mouse or something. Maybe a trapped insect. But curiosity got the better of me. So I slid the top open. Inside was dirt. At least, that's what I thought it was at first. Dark, moist soil. And in the center, a small lump dot. It looked like a dried root, except it was pulsing dot slowly, almost like it was breathing. I slammed the lid shut. I wanted to throw it out, but something in me hesitated, like the idea of touching it again made my skin crawl. So I left it there that night. I heard the noise again, scraping, shuffling, then a thud. When I opened the door to the garage, the box was on the floor, the lid was off, and there were tracks thin, wet marks leading away from it, tiny, like something the size of a rat, or smaller. The trail went under the shell, and stopped. Nothing there. I told myself I was imagining things, but over the next few days, weird stuff kept happening. I'd find small clumps of dirt on the kitchen counter, scratches on the baseboards, and once, I swear, I heard whispering. Not words, exactly, just soft hissing sounds, like breathing through teeth. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I'd see that thing in the box. That lump, pulsing dot, and the smell. It started to fill the house. Damp earth, rotting wood, like something alive was festering in the walls. On the fifth night, I woke up to a noise that froze my blood. It wasn't scratching this time. It was footsteps, soft, slow, not coming from the hallway. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and crept toward the sound. When I turned the corner, something darted behind the couch. I caught just a glimpse, pale, hairless, thin, like a hand, but wrong. Too many joints, too long. I ran to the front door, but it slammed shut before I could reach it. The air went cold. Then I heard a whisper, low and wet. Open the box. I dropped my phone and bolted into the garage. The box was back on the table, lid closed tight. I grabbed a hammer and smashed it open. The dirt inside was gone. Instead, there was something else. A small, curled-up figure, grayish skin, shriveled, eyes sealed shut like a fetus made of ash and clay. And it was breathing. Slowly, I screamed and swung the hammer again, shattering the wood, scattering dirt and splinters everywhere. When I looked back, it was gone. The thing had vanished. All that was left was the broken box and a trail of muddy prints leading out the garage door. I didn't sleep that night or the next. I started hearing it again, scratching at the window, tapping from inside the walls. It never showed itself, just let me know it was still there. A week later, I couldn't take it anymore. I went back to that old woman's house, but the yard was empty. For sale sign out front. I'd knocked anyway. A man answered, maybe in his 50s. I asked him about the woman who'd lived there before. He frowned. Who bought this place 6 months ago. The previous owner passed away last winter. My stomach dropped. You mean she's dead? He nodded. Yeah, the police found her in the basement. They said she'd been keeping something down there. What kind of something? I asked. He shook his head. They didn't tell us, but they burned everything before selling the house. I left when I got home. My front door was open. I froze in the driveway from inside. I heard movement, a slow, dragging sound across the floor. I stepped closer, my breath shaking, dot, and then I saw it, standing in the hallway. The same small figure, gray, cracked skin, hollow eyes now wide open. But it wasn't small anymore. It had grown at least 4 feet tall, and in its face, where a mouth should have been, was a jagged hole, pulsing like it was breathing through it inside. I could see something moving, something alive. It tilted its head at me. Then it whispered, in that same voice as the woman at the yard sale, "Don't open it at night." I ran. I left everything behind. When I came back the next day with a friend, the house was empty. No footprints, no smell, no sign anything had ever been there. Just the shattered remains of that wooden box on the garage floor. But when I looked closer, I realized something. The carvings along the edge, they were different now. They weren't vines anymore. They were faces, tiny, twisted faces, and one of them looked like me. I burned what was left of it that night, watched it turn to ash dot, but sometimes, late at night, I'll still hear it, that faint ticking sound, coming from the corner of my room. Tick, tick, like something inside the walls is waiting for me to fall asleep. So if you ever find a beautiful old box at a yard sale, and the seller warns you not to open it at night, don't laugh. Don't buy it, because whatever's inside, it doesn't stay there forever. And once you've opened it, it knows you, and it won't stop until it's free. Story 3. I grew up in a small town in northern Oregon called Silver Falls. It's one of those quiet places, surrounded by miles of pine trees and hiking trails. Everyone hikes there, tourists, locals, campers. It's like the heartbeat of the town, but for locals. There's one rule we all grew up hearing. When the sun goes down, don't go into the woods. And if you hear music, run the other way. I always thought it was just one of those small town ghost stories. Something parents told their kids so they wouldn't wander off at night. Until last year, when I found out it's not a story at all. It started one evening in July. I was visiting home from college, staying at my mum's cabin by the lake. My best friend, Mark, came over for the weekend. We hadn't seen each other in months, so we grabbed some beers, made a fire out back, and sat by the tree line just talking about dumb stuff like old times. Around 11 p.m., the fire started dying down. The woods behind the cabin were pitch black, the kind of dark that swallows the light. That's when we heard it, faint but clear dot music. It sounded like a violin, slow, melancholic almost. Beautiful dot. Mark looked up. You hear that? Yeah, I said, frowning. Probably somebody camping nearby. But the weird thing was, the sound wasn't coming from the lake where campsites usually were. It was coming from deeper in the woods, from the direction nobody goes after dark. We listened for a while. The melody kept changing, soft at first, then louder, like it was drifting between the trees. Mark smirked. Come on, let's go find it, I laughed. You're out of your mind. Bye. It's almost midnight. He grinned, already grabbing a flashlight. What, you scared of a little music? I hesitated. Every instinct in me said don't, but Mark had always been the bold one, and I didn't want to be the coward who stayed behind. So I grabbed my jacket and followed him into the trees. At first, it was fine. The flashlight beam bounced between trunks, catching dust and bugs. The path was narrow but familiar, one we used to take during the day to reach the creek. The deeper we went, the stronger the music got. And it wasn't just one violin anymore. It sounded like an entire orchestra, violins, flutes, even faint singing. But no matter how far we walked, we never seemed to get closer. Mark stopped suddenly. You hear that? The music had shifted again. Now it was soft and slow, almost like a lullaby. Then, clear as day, we heard something else. The voice stopped whispering. It was faint, but I swear it said, keep walking. I turned to Mark. Dude, I'm not liking this. Let's head back. He shook his head. No, it's right ahead. You hear it. It's close. and before I could stop him, he took off running. I shouted after him, but my voice just vanished into the trees. The flashlight beam bounced wildly as I chased him, branches whipping my face, mud pulling at my shoes. Then, silence. The music stopped completely. I was standing in total darkness. No wind, no insects, nothing. Just my heartbeat pounding in my ears. Mark. I yelled no answer. I turned in a circle, trying to figure out which direction I'd come from. But every direction looked the same. That's when I saw it. A light, a dim yellow glow between the trees. Maybe 20 yards ahead, and the music started again. It was softer this time. A single violin playing the same slow, haunting melody as before. I wanted to run, but my legs wouldn't move. It was like something was pulling me forward. Every note got under my skin, in my chest, in my head. I found myself walking toward the light, one step at a time, until I reached a clearing. There, in the center, was a small wooden cabin. The windows glowed warm orange, and smoke rose from the chimney. It looked normal, except there wasn't supposed to be a cabin here, not for miles. The front door was slightly open, and the music was coming from inside. I don't know what possessed me, but I stepped onto the porch. Each board creaked like it hadn't been touched in years. I peeked through the doorway, inside. Candles lined the walls. Hundreds of them flickering, dripping wax down the wooden planks. And in the center of the room was a man, at least. I thought it was a man. He was standing with his back to me, wearing old-fashioned clothes, a black suit with long tails, like something from the 1800s. He was playing the violin, perfectly still, except for his hands. I whispered, "Hey, have you seen my friend?" The music stopped. He froze mid-bow. Then he turned around. His face was wrong. His skin was stretched, too tight over his bones. His eyes were completely white, no pupils, and his mouth hung open in a grin that went far too wide. But that wasn't the worst part. The violin he was holding wasn't made of wood. It looked like it was made of flesh, veins running along the body, strings glistening red in the candlelight dot, and in his other hand, dangling by the hair, was marked, his face, pale eyes empty, a thin trickle of blood running from his ears. I stumbled back, screaming. The man, or whatever it was, tilted his head. Then he whispered, in a voice that echoed from everywhere and nowhere, "Now you'll stay and listen." I ran. I don't even remember how. Branches tore at my arms and face, but I didn't stop. The music followed me, louder, faster. It felt like it was chasing me through the trees. When I finally saw the glow of my mom's cabin through the branches, I collapsed on the porch, gasping for air. The second I crossed the threshold, it stopped, silence. I turned around. The woods were still, but at the edge of the tree line, I saw something, a shape standing just beyond the light. The man with the violin. He lifted the bow, placed it against the strings, and then he vanished. The police searched for Mark the next morning. We found his footprints yours and mine leading into the woods, but only mine came back out. They never found a cabin, never found him. His family put up posters, held vigils, but after a few weeks, the search was called off. I told them what happened. They said I was in shock, maybe hallucinating, but I know what I saw, and I know what I heard. It's been a year now. I moved away, tried to start over, but sometimes, late at night, I'll hear it again. That same violin, faint at first, then closer. Always from somewhere outside my window. And no matter where I go, Oregon, California, even across the country, it always finds me. Always playing that same song. A few weeks ago, I got a package in the mail. No return address. Inside was an old cassette tape. Written on it, in smudged red ink, were 4 words. Keep walking. Keep listening. I played it once. Just once. The tape hissed. Then, that same melody began. And underneath it, I could hear something else. A voice. Mark's voice. He was crying, whispering something I could barely make out. I turned the volume all the way up, and I heard it. Don't follow it. Don't. Then a sharp screech cut through, and the tape snapped. I threw it out. Burned it, actually. But last night, when I got home from work, there was something waiting on my porch. A violin, old, wooden. Except this one looked wet, like something living was under the surface, still pulsing, and tied to one of the strings. Clothes, a single blonde hair, marks. I don't know what it wants, but I know it's getting closer. So, if you ever go hiking anywhere, and you hear music drifting through the trees, don't follow it. Don't listen, because once you do, it learns your rhythm, your heartbeat, and it won't stop playing until you join the song. Do story for you. Ever hear something that just doesn't leave your head? Put a story so bizarre, so wrong, that it keeps echoing in your mind long after you hear it. That's what happened to me when I started looking into the disappearances near Yosemite National Park. I thought it was just an internet rumor at first. Hikers getting lost, animal attacks, maybe even serial killers. You know, the usual explanations. But the truth is nothing like that. Pow! And I wish to God I never started digging, because I found something out there. Something that shouldn't exist. It started 2 summers ago. My cousin, Mark, went missing near Yosemite. He wasn't some rookie hiker. He was an experienced outdoorsman. Worked as a park ranger for a while. Knew every trail like the back of his hand. He was the kind of guy who could make a fire with wet wood and navigate at night using stars. So, when he didn't come back from a short 2-day hike near Tenaya Canyon, everyone was confused. Search and rescue combed that place for weeks. They found his campsite tent still zipped, backpack still inside. His map folded neatly next to the sleeping bag, but no sign of him. Not a footprint, not a drag mark, nothing. Like he just vanished. That was the first time I went to Yosemite. I told the police I was just there to help, but truthfully, I couldn't sleep after hearing how they found his tent. I needed to see it myself. When I got there, the ranger at the station gave me this polite book. She said people disappear in the park all the time. Some fall, some drown, some just don't want to be found. But when I mentioned Mark's name, her expression changed. She got quiet, handed me a trail map, and said, "Don't go off path, ever." I remember that line clear as day. The first day of my own hike was uneventful. Yosemite's beauty is unreal. Waterfalls echoing through canyons, mist rising off granite cliffs, the smell of pine and dirt mixing in the wind. But by late afternoon, I felt wrong. The forest was too quiet. No wind, no birds, just this heavy silence, like the air itself was holding its breath. I found Mark's old campsite right before sunset. The ranger hadn't lied. His gear was still there, half covered in pine needles, but untouched otherwise. I checked everything. The food was sealed. The flashlight batteries were dead. And his boots, they were gone. That's when I noticed something behind the tent. A circle of stones, arranged carefully, too perfect to be random, about 6 feet wide. At first, I thought it was just an old campfire ring, but the stones were wet, shiny. And when I looked closer, I realized they weren't stones. They're bones, small ones, like fingers. I remember stumbling backward, my heart slamming in my chest, and I swear I heard something move in the trees behind me. Slow, deliberate steps, crunching pine needles. I spun around and yelled out, "Mark!" Silence. Then, something whistled. It wasn't wind. It wasn't human either. It was high-pitched, warbling, and so painfully clear that it made my skin crawl, like someone trying to mimic a person. I bolted. I didn't stop running until I reached the trail. But when I looked back, I swear I saw a figure between the trees. Tall, hunched, almost human, but not quite. Its head tilted slightly, like it was watching me. That night, I stayed at a cheap lodge near El Portal. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those bones. That circle. Around 3 a.m., I heard scratching outside my window. Just soft enough that I thought I might be imagining it. Then the whistle, not the same one from the woods. I jumped out of bed and pulled back the curtain. Nothing, just darkness and my reflection staring back. But when I looked down, there were wet footprints leading away from the window. Bare, human-shaped, but long. Too long. I left the lodge at sunrise. I was ready to call it quits, drive home, pretend none of it happened. But when I stopped for gas in Mariposa, this old guy in a denim jacket came up to me. He looked like he hadn't shaved in a week, eyes bloodshot but sharp. He asked if I'd been near Tenaya Canyon. I said yes. He sighed and said, "You shouldn't have gone there." I asked him what he meant. He told me people have been disappearing in that canyon for decades. Always the same pattern. They go missing near dusk, gear untouched, no sign of struggle. Locals call it the Silent Valley. Native stories say the place was cursed, a punishment for disturbing something ancient. But here's where it got weird. The old man said he'd seen it. The echo, he called it, said it wasn't an animal. Not a ghost, either. Something older, something that wears people. I laughed nervously and asked him what he meant. He just stared at me and said, "If you hear your name in those woods, run the other way." That night, I made the worst decision of my life. I went back. I told myself I was just trying to find answers, closure, maybe, but really, I was obsessed. I needed to know what happened to Mark Dalton. The trail looked different the second time. The trees felt closer, the air heavier. I hiked until dark and camped right where his tent had been. Around midnight, I woke up to soft singing. It was a woman's voice, distant but beautiful. I unzipped the tent and stepped out. The sound floated through the trees, gentle, sad, and familiar. I followed it. Every step I took, the song grew clearer. My heart was pounding, but something pulled me forward, deeper into the woods. Then the song stopped. That's when I heard it whisper my name. Eli. It was Mark's voice. I froze. The trees were shifting in the moonlight, and I could see something moving between them. Slow, deliberate. I called out, "Mark," but it didn't answer. Just stood there, watching Dot. And then I saw its face. For half a second, I thought it was him. By the same flannel shirt, same height, same jawline, but the eyes, they were wrong, completely black, and the smile stretched too wide, like its skin didn't fit right. It took a step closer, by it, and I saw the bones of its fingers peeking through its skin. "Come back, Eli," it said in Mark's voice. I ran, harder than I've ever run in my life. The ground felt like it was pulling at my legs, the air thick like syrup. I could hear it behind me, that shuffle of footsteps getting closer and closer. Then I tripped. I hit the dirt hard, scraping my hands. And when I looked up, it was standing over me, grinning. I could see the moonlight glinting off the wet surface of its skin. It leaned down and whispered, "You shouldn't have followed the sound." And then nothing. I woke up at sunrise, lying near the edge of the trail. No footprints, no sign of struggle. My gear was scattered, my phone dead. I made it back to my car, somehow, but I didn't go home right away. I stopped one last time at the ranger station, told them. I thought I saw something, someone in the woods. The ranger looked at me for a long time. Then she said quietly, "We don't search after dark anymore. It's safer that way." When I asked what she meant, she just said, "If you heard the singing, you were lucky to wake up. I don't go hiking anymore. Bye. Move to the city, away from the woods. But sometimes, late at night, when everything's quiet, I still hear it. That same faint song, drifting through my window, soft, calling my name. And I know if I ever follow it again, I won't come back. So, if you ever go near Yosemite and you hear music in the trees, don't follow it. Because whatever's making that sound, it's not human, and it remembers your name.